slow. I discovered my daughter-in-law had been poisoning me for 18 months. 18 months of confusion, fog, and fear, all hidden behind her gentle smile and the sweet smell of morning coffee. It was December 22nd when the truth landed like a hammer. I was sitting in my recliner, pretending the drugs were still working. Eyes half closed, body limp. Patricia thought I was half asleep when she leaned close to my son and whispered, open quote, "We'll kick him out after Christmas. I already called Shady Oaks. They have a bed ready." Close quote. My son, Danny, hesitated. Open quote, "Are you sure about this?" And then her voice, sharp, venomous. "Look at him, drooling like an idiot. The pills work perfectly. Once he's committed, we get power of attorney. The house is ours. $950,000 free and clear." Close quote. My heart slammed against my ribs. She had no idea that I'd stopped drinking her coffee weeks ago. No idea that I'd been recording every word. And as rage burned through my chest, I realized something simple, something deadly. Sometimes the best revenge is letting evil people hang themselves with their own rope. But let me tell you how we got here, because the blood test results, they would change everything. It began on February 15th, 2023. The day after we buried my wife, Eleanor. That was the day Patricia took control of my mornings. She'd come in early, her voice soft and warm. Open quote, "You need to keep your strength up, Dad," she'd say, setting down a steaming mug of coffee. I believed her. God help me, I believed her. Close quote. By April, something was wrong. Every morning around 10, I'd feel this crushing fatigue. My head would swim. Words tangled on my tongue. During dinner, I'd lose the thread of conversation mid-sentence. "It's grief," Patricia told the family, shaking her head sadly, "and his age. He's 70 next year." 69, I wanted to correct her, but my mouth wouldn't form the words. By summer, confusion had become routine. Coffee at 8:30, brain fog by 10, nap by noon. And Patricia, she started coming to doctor visits. "He's been so confused lately," she'd tell Dr. Peterson, squeezing my shoulder. "Tell him about forgetting the stove, like Dad." I hadn't forgotten anything, but sitting there, groggy, detached, I couldn't prove it. That's when the financial changes began. Danny came over in June looking uneasy. Open quote, "Dad, maybe you shouldn't be handling your own accounts." Patricia found 3 unpaid bills. Close quote, unpaid bills I'd never seen, bills she must have pulled from my mailbox and staged on the counter. Open quote, "We're just looking out for you," she said, taking my checkbook. Close quote, my pension was $3,200 a month. The house was paid off. Eleanor and I had worked our whole lives to clear that mortgage. My expenses shouldn't have been more than $1,800, yet somehow I was always broke. Open quote, "Where's my money going?" I asked. "Medications are expensive, Dad. Your Ambien alone is $84 a month." Close quote, Ambien? I'd never taken Ambien in my life. That was the first crack in her story, but I was too dazed to chase it. By October, Patricia had begun whispering to the neighbors. Mrs. Johnson next door stopped meeting my eyes. Open quote, "I'm so sorry about James," she told Patricia at the mailbox. "Early onset dementia is heartbreaking." Close quote, open quote, "We're managing," Patricia replied softly. "Some days are better than others." Close quote. I wanted to scream that I wasn't sick, that I was being poisoned, but the words slurred together, tumbling uselessly from my mouth. Patricia would just smile and guide me back inside, gentle as a nurse. The isolation came next. Subtle, total. Poker night? Canceled. Book club? Too overstimulating for him now. Even my brother stopped visiting after Patricia told him I'd become aggressive. Open quote, "He gets agitated around people," she said. Close quote. Agitated. No, I was terrified, watching my life shrink down to the walls of my house while she stole it piece by piece. By Thanksgiving, she'd won everyone over. Open quote, "Maybe we should look into memory care," she suggested at dinner, all concern and pity. "Just for his safety." Close quote. That's when I decided I needed proof. Because 3 weeks earlier, on November 1st, something strange had happened. That morning, I accidentally knocked over my coffee, reaching for my glasses. Patricia fussed, made a fresh cup, but I was running late. I left without drinking it. 4 hours later, I felt sharper than I had in months. Clear. Awake. Me. That night, I tried an experiment. I dumped the coffee in the sink, filled the mug with water, and pretended to drink. And you know what? No fatigue. No fog. No confusion. For the first time since Eleanor's funeral, I could think. By the end of that week, I understood the pattern. The coffee was poison. Patricia wasn't nursing me back to health. She was burying me alive, one sip at a time. But I needed evidence. Solid, undeniable proof. So I drove to Best Buy and bought an $89 digital recorder. If Patricia thought she could outsmart a man who'd spent 38 years teaching literature, a man who'd studied deception, character, motives, she was about to learn that stories always reveal their villains. December 5th, I tucked the recorder inside my cardigan and pretended to nap while Patricia paced the kitchen. Her voice was low, urgent. Open quote, the lawyer says we need medical documentation. 3 physicians stating he's mentally incompetent. Close quote. I kept my breathing slow. Open quote, Dr. Peterson already signed off, she said into the phone. I made sure to mention the gas burner and the wandering episode. Close quote. Both lies. And the next doctor? Open quote. Dr. Stevens will see him next week. I've already briefed him about James's condition. Close quote. A third neurologist was waiting in line to rubber stamp my incompetence. Then came the real dagger. Open quote. Once we have the court order, everything transfers. The house, his pension, the life insurance from Eleanor's death. Danny doesn't suspect anything. He thinks we're just being good caregivers. Close quote. Life insurance. Eleanor's $50,000 meant for our grandson, Tyler. Patricia's tone brightened. Open quote. The property appraiser came yesterday, $950,000. Can you believe it? Close quote. She paused, probably checking if I was still asleep. Open quote. The nursing home's perfect. Shady Oaks Memory Care. Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family. Meanwhile, we sell the house and move to Florida like we planned. Close quote. Florida. They'd planned everything, right down to my death. Open quote. The beauty is, it's all legal. Power of attorney for an incompetent relative. The court will thank us for taking such good care of poor, confused James. Close quote. That night, while she was at her book club, I searched her purse. Inside, real estate listings for condos in Sarasota. 3 of them. Prices ranging from $400,000 to $600,000. And tucked behind her romance novels, a manila folder. Inside that folder were power of attorney forms, commitment papers for Shady Oaks, already dated, and a handwritten timeline. December 1 to 15, secure medical opinions. December 16 to 25, Christmas normal. Don't upset Danny. December 26 to 31, file court papers. January 3rd, commitment. January 15, POA hearing. February 1, house closing. March 1, move to Florida. My destruction, scheduled like a business plan. The next morning, she made her usual phone call while stirring my oatmeal. Open quote, Dr. Stevens confirmed James for the 15th, she said. I told him about the bathroom accidents and the violent outbursts. Close quote. Bathroom accidents. Violent outbursts. Every lie bigger than the last. Open quote, Danny's starting to ask questions, she continued. He said maybe Dad just needs different medication, but it doesn't matter. We're too close to back down now. I already put a deposit on the Sarasota condo. $20,000 down. Close quote. 20,000? From where? Then I remembered the missing pension checks. Open quote, the memory care place wants $4,800 a month. Insurance covers half, but once we sell the house, we're set for life. Close quote. Set for life, on my life. That afternoon, she brought my coffee, smiling sweetly. Open quote, here you go, Dad. Your favorite. Close quote. I waited until she turned away, then looked inside the mug. White residue clung to the bottom, bitter, chalky, undissolved. I touched it to my tongue. Not sugar, not even close. I poured the coffee into a mason jar I'd hidden behind my chair, labeled it with the date. Evidence sample number 1. The next morning, same routine. This time, I saw her palm the pill bottle, sample number 2. By December 10th, I had 5 samples and 47 minutes of recorded conversations. She'd confessed to drugging me, forging reports, stealing my pension, and plotting to have me declared incompetent. But the worst came on December 12th. Open quote, the best part is James will never know what hit him, she told someone over the phone. By the time he realizes, he'll be locked away with no rights. Even if he tries to tell anyone, who's going to believe a demented old man? Close quote. And then she laughed. That laugh will haunt me forever. Open quote, honestly, it's almost a mercy, she said. At least his death will fund something useful. Close quote. My death. That's when I knew this wasn't just about money. It was murder wrapped in family concern. December 13th, 5 jars of evidence on my desk, a recorder full of confessions, but I still needed medical proof. Patricia had set an appointment with her chosen neurologist, Dr. Stevens, for December 15th, the man who would rubber stamp my mental decline. If I showed up foggy, he'd sign. If I showed up alert, Patricia would know her plan was collapsing. Then it hit me, the simplest, most perfect move of all. I picked up the phone and called Dr. Rebecca Martinez, Eleanor's old oncologist, a woman who actually knew me. "I'd like to schedule private blood work," I said quietly. "Comprehensive toxicology screening." She hesitated, open quote. "Is this related to your current treatment, Mr. Thompson?" Close quote. "No," I said. "It's related to medications I may have been given without my knowledge." That afternoon, I drove myself to her private lab. When she saw me, her eyebrows rose. Open quote, "James, you look remarkably well for someone with advancing dementia." Close quote. I smiled. Open quote, "That's because I don't have dementia, Rebecca. I have a daughter-in-law with a pill crusher and a real estate scheme." Close quote. Her expression darkened. I told her everything: the morning fog, the fake bills, the forged reports, the whispers, how Patricia had systematically dismantled my credibility one cup at a time. Open quote, "I need you to test my blood for sedatives," I said, "and I need documentation that my cognitive function is normal." Close quote. She drew 3 vials, then ran a full cognitive exam: memory recall, pattern recognition, problem solving. When she looked up from the clipboard, her eyes were sharp. Open quote, "James, your results are in the 95th percentile for your age. There's nothing wrong with your mind." Close quote. "Then why?" I asked. "Do I feel foggy every morning after coffee?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. Open quote, "Because someone is drugging you." Close quote. She stared at the vials, labeling them carefully. Open quote, "These blood samples will tell us what and how much." Close quote. And as I watched her seal them in evidence bags, something inside me shifted. For the first time in months, I felt powerful. Not helpless, not broken. The poison had taken my clarity, my reputation, my peace, but now I had proof. What Patricia didn't know was that I was no longer her victim. I was her judge, her jury, and the keeper of every word she'd ever spoken in the dark. The blood tests were on their way to the lab. In 48 hours, I'd know exactly what she'd been feeding me. And when those results came back, that's when everything, her lies, her perfect plan, her Florida dream, would begin to unravel. Because evil has a habit of overplaying its hand. And Patricia had no idea what was coming next. You think you know the people you share your home with. You think family means safety, trust, love. But what if the person pouring your morning coffee was slowly killing you? This is the story of a man who caught his killer in real time, not with luck, not with chance, but with patience, precision, and one $36 camera. It all began when James Thompson started forgetting things, or at least that's what everyone thought. He'd lose track of conversations, misplace his keys, stumble over his words. His daughter-in-law, Patricia, told the family he was slipping. Maybe early dementia, maybe Alzheimer's. But James wasn't convinced. Something about it didn't feel natural, because every time Patricia made his morning coffee, within an hour, his head felt foggy. His speech would slur, his body heavy, like his mind was sinking into a swamp he couldn't crawl out of. So one morning, while waiting for lab results from a blood test, he made a decision that would change everything. He got in his car, drove to Best Buy, and for $36 bought a TinyWise security camera. No bigger than a golf ball. Wireless. Discreet. Perfect. That evening, while Patricia was away at a parent-teacher meeting for her son, he set it up behind the bread box on the kitchen counter. It had the perfect view, the coffee maker, the counter, and Patricia's every move. The next morning, he pretended to sleep in late, shuffling downstairs like a confused old man while the camera quietly recorded. 8:47 a.m., Patricia walks into the kitchen. 8:49. She pulls a pill bottle from her purse. 8:50. She crushes 2 white tablets with the back of a spoon. 8:51. She stirs the powder into James's coffee mug, adds extra cream. 8:52. She carries the cup to his study with a sweet, practiced smile. "Here's your morning coffee, Dad," all of it, captured in perfect high-definition video. And by noon, the lab results confirmed what he already suspected. Dr. Martinez called. "James," he said, "you have 2.3 milligrams of zolpidem in your system. Zolpidem, better known as Ambien, A full therapeutic dose, enough to cause confusion, memory loss, slurred speech, drowsiness. Is that enough to prove I'm being poisoned? James asked. It's enough, the doctor said quietly, to put someone in prison. That afternoon, James got to work. He made copies of everything, the blood results, the camera footage, the audio recordings. He built timelines, documents, proof. One set went to his attorney, Margaret Hayes, another to a safe deposit box. If anything happens to me, he told Margaret, if I'm suddenly committed to a nursing home or declared incompetent, open this envelope and call the police. Margaret frowned. James, you seem completely lucid to me. That's because I am, he said. But tomorrow I start the performance of my lifetime. December 15th, the day Patricia planned to have him officially declared incompetent. She'd already scheduled an appointment with Dr. Stevens, a specialist who could write the medical report needed for a court-ordered guardianship. Patricia expected James to arrive drugged, docile, confused, easy to manipulate. But James had other plans. He drank the coffee that morning, all of it. Let the poison hit his system like a freight train. His body wobbled, his speech slurred, but his mind was razor sharp. He'd prepared witnesses who knew he was acting. He stumbled into the doctor's office just as Patricia wanted. Groggy, unsteady, muttering nonsense. A perfect performance. Hidden inside his jacket was a digital recorder, quietly capturing every word. Dr. Stevens, this is my father-in-law, James, Patricia said sweetly, guiding him into a chair. His condition has deteriorated rapidly. The doctor barely glanced at him. Tell me about his symptoms. Patricia launched into her script. Memory loss, confusion, wandering episodes. Yesterday, he asked me 4 times what year it was. He's becoming aggressive when we try to help. James slumped forward, eyes drooping. Dr. Stevens nodded. Classic presentation. He turned to James. Can you tell me what month this is? James stared at him blankly. Where are we? He mumbled. Patricia touched his shoulder. It's December, James. We're at the doctor's office, remember? For 20 minutes, James played the part of a man slipping into the fog, stumbling, mumbling, forgetting his own daughter-in-law's name. At the end, the doctor sighed. I'm sorry to say this confirms what you suspected. Moderate to severe cognitive decline. I'll prepare the documentation for memory care placement. How soon can we move forward? Patricia asked smoothly. By Monday, the doctor said. Shady Oaks has an opening. Perfect. And just like that, Patricia thought her plan was complete, but she had no idea the entire appointment was recorded. Every lie, every false statement, every fake symptom, preserved forever. That evening, while Patricia celebrated with her husband Danny, James uploaded the footage. 18 separate mornings of her crushing pills into his coffee. He burned copies to multiple drives, mailed one to his brother in Chicago. Open this if I disappear. By December 18th, he had her final confession, a phone call she made right in front of him, believing he was too drugged to understand. The commitment papers are signed, she said into the phone. January 3rd, we drive him to Shady Oaks and walk away. A pause, then laughter. No, Danny doesn't know about the house sale. I told him we're just looking at options for Dad's care. Another pause. Are you kidding? Once James is locked up, we're gone. Danny can visit his demented father alone if he wants. We'll be in Sarasota by March. Tyler can spend summers with us instead of wasting time in that frozen wasteland. Her voice hardened. The beauty is, it's all legal. Power of attorney lets me sell everything. His pension covers his care. And if he dies in that place, we inherit everything, free and clear. She said it, out loud. That was the moment James stopped being a victim. That night, he called Detective Sarah Brown, a specialist in elder abuse cases. Detective, he said quietly, I need to report a crime in progress. The next day, he sat in her office, a stack of manila folders on the desk. Video evidence, audio recordings, blood tests, financial documents. Detective Brown flipped through the pages, her brow furrowing. Mr. Thompson, she said finally, this is one of the most detailed elder abuse cases I've ever seen. We can arrest her immediately. But James shook his head. No, not yet. Why? Because Patricia's planning one final performance on Christmas morning. She's going to tell my family I'm too far gone. She's going to show them the commitment papers. I want her to believe she's won, right up until the handcuffs click. Detective Brown smiled grimly. We'll be ready. December 23rd, Patricia's greed got the better of her. She left real estate papers sitting on the kitchen counter, documents showing she'd already sold the house for $850,000. Closing date, December 29th. But what Patricia didn't know was that James had made his own calls, his own arrangements. He was ready. Christmas morning, 2024. Patricia woke up humming carols, probably picturing herself on a beach in Florida by March. She brewed the coffee, crushed the pills, stirred the poison. "Coffee's ready, Dad," she called. James smiled, took the cup, and pretended to sip, but most of it went into the dying potted plant beside his chair. By 10 a.m., Danny and Tyler arrived with presents. Tyler hugged his grandfather gently. "Hi, Grandpa. Mom says you're not feeling very good," James smiled. "I'm feeling better than I have in months." Patricia's eyes flicked up, sharp and nervous. "Dad's having one of his clearer moments," she said quickly. "They come and go." Through the morning, she kept glancing at her watch, timing everything, waiting for her moment. At 11:30, she pulled Danny aside. "Can I talk to you in the kitchen?" Tyler stayed in the living room, distracted by his new video game. James followed quietly, staying just around the corner. "Your father had another episode Tuesday night," Patricia began. "He was wandering the neighborhood in his underwear at 2 a.m. Fear Mrs. Gand Johnson had to call me." Another lie. "I didn't want to ruin Christmas," she continued, "but we can't wait any longer. Dr. Stevens says he needs immediate placement." James could hear papers rustling, commitment forms. "Shady Oaks has a bed available January 3rd. I've already filled everything out." Danny hesitated. "Patricia, this seems sudden." She softened her voice, practiced concern dripping from every syllable. "Danny, look at these incident reports. Violent outbursts, leaving the stove on, bathroom accidents. I've been protecting you from how bad it's gotten." She lowered her tone. "Think about Tyler. Do you want him remembering his grandfather like this? Confused, angry? Better to preserve the good memories." That's when James stepped into the kitchen. "What good memories would those be, Patricia?" She froze. "Dad, you should be resting." He looked her dead in the eye. 18 months of good memories. Like when you told people I couldn't control my bladder, or when you said I threw a mug at you. Her face went pale. "Danny, your father's having another episode." "Or maybe," James said evenly, "you mean the memory of you crushing Ambien into my coffee every morning since February." Danny blinked. "Dad, what are you talking about?" James reached into his cardigan, pulled out the recorder. "I'm talking about this." He pressed play. Patricia's own voice filled the kitchen. "The beauty is, it's all legal. Power of attorney for an incompetent relative. The court will thank us for taking such good care of poor, confused James." Danny's face drained of color. "Patricia, what is that?" James fast-forwarded. Another clip. "Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family. Meanwhile, we sell the house and move to Florida like we planned." "This is fake," Patricia snapped. "Danny, your father is delusional." But James wasn't done. He pulled out his phone and showed them the video. Patricia on screen crushing pills, stirring the powder into his coffee. "December 18th, he said calmly. 8:49 a.m., December 19th. Same time. I have 18 different videos, Danny. Your wife has been systematically poisoning me for over a year." Patricia lunged for his phone. "Don't touch him," Danny barked, stepping between them. James opened a folder and handed him the blood test. "Dr. Martinez found 2.3 milligrams of Ambien in my blood. That's a full dose." Danny's hands shook as he read the papers. Patricia backed toward the door, but outside, a police cruiser was already pulling up to the curb, and Detective Sarah Brown was stepping out. James looked at Patricia, her face white as snow, her voice gone silent. For 18 months, she'd believed she was in control, but every lie, every drop of poison, every stage symptom had led her here. Long pause, quiet voice. The handcuffs clicked before she could say a word, and as the officers led her away, James finally lifted his cup of coffee, poured the cold, untouched liquid down the sink, and whispered to himself, "Sometimes the only way to expose a liar is to let them think they've already won." Soft music fades in, heartbeat slow. But what James didn't know, what no one in that room realized yet, was that Patricia hadn't acted alone, because somewhere, hundreds of miles away, another signature was waiting on the house sale contract, and the name beneath it would change everything. 2.3 milligrams of zolpidem. That's what the lab results said. A full therapeutic dose, enough to knock out anyone who wasn't expecting it. Enough to make a man forget his own name if taken every day. And according to Dr. Martinez, that's exactly what had been happening to me for months. When I heard the words, I felt something cold settle inside me. It wasn't shock. It wasn't even anger. It was confirmation, the kind that crawls through your veins like ice water. I wasn't losing my mind. I wasn't slipping into dementia. I was being poisoned. Slowly, systematically, by the woman who called me Dad. Patricia's composure finally cracked when I told her what the doctor said. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under," she stammered, tears forming but never falling. "Your father was depressed, barely functional. So you decided to make it worse?" I asked. "I was trying to help. The confusion, the memory lapses. That was just grief. The medication calmed you down." "The medication nearly destroyed me," I said quietly, "and you were going to lock me away forever so you could steal my house." Danny, my son, picked up the commitment papers lying on the counter. "January 3rd, he read. "You already scheduled it." "For his own good," Patricia said weakly. "For $950,000, I interrupted. "The exact amount you sold my house for." The room fell silent. Tyler, my 12-year-old grandson, wandered in, still holding the video game controller he'd gotten for Christmas. "Why is everyone so quiet?" he asked. "Why is Mom crying?" Because sometimes even the best liars eventually run out of lies. But the real surprise hadn't happened yet. Danny stood frozen in the kitchen, commitment papers trembling in his hands. Patricia sobbed into her palms. Tyler just looked at us, a child standing at the edge of a truth too dark for his age. "Patricia," Danny said slowly, "how long have you been planning this?" I answered for her. 18 months, since the day after we buried Eleanor. I opened my manila folder and spread the evidence across the table, like a prosecutor presenting Exhibit A through Z. "Here's her timeline," I said. December 26th, file court papers. January 3rd, commitment. February 1st, house closing. March 1st, move to Florida. Danny picked up the planning document, his hands shaking. "You already put a deposit on a condo." $20,000 down payment, I added, paid for with my stolen pension checks. Patricia finally looked up. Her mascara streaked down her face like black rivers cutting through snow. "You don't understand what it's been like," she screamed. "Taking care of him, dealing with his depression." "Taking care of me?" I cut in. "You stole $43,000 from my accounts in the last year." "That's not caregiving, Patricia. That's embezzlement." "Danny, show him the medical reports," I said quietly. I laid Dr. Stevens' fraudulent dementia diagnosis next to Dr. Martinez's clean bill of cognitive health. Perfect scores, every category, dated 3 days apart, 2 doctors, 2 completely different realities. "Want to guess which one Patricia coached?" I asked. Danny's face grew darker as he scanned both reports. "Dr. Stevens never even examined you, did he?" 20 minutes, I said. A performance based entirely on her lies. She told him I was violent, paranoid, dangerous. Patricia slammed her hand on the table. "I was protecting everyone. You were scaring Tyler." Tyler looked up, startled. "What? Grandpa's been fine. You're the one who said he was sick." From the mouths of babes. I pressed play on another recording. Patricia's voice filled the kitchen, cool and calculating. "The paranoia is getting worse. Yesterday he threw a coffee mug at me." "I never threw anything," I said calmly. But Patricia needed documented violence to justify commitment. Danny began pacing, connecting every lie like dots on a terrible map. "The wandering episode you told me about, that never happened, did it? The stove you said he left on? Fake. The bathroom accidents? Complete fabrication," I said, "every single one." 18 months of deception. Audio, video, medical proof, all of it documented and undeniable. Danny's voice trembled. "Why? Patricia? Dad would have helped us if we just asked. He always has." That's when her mask finally shattered. "Help us what?" she snapped. "Scrape by in this miserable house forever? Watch you work at that factory until your back breaks? I'm 34 years old, Danny. I deserve better." There it was. The truth, the rot beneath the charm. "Better than what?" I asked. "A family that loves you? A home with no mortgage? A husband who works himself to the bone for you?" "Better than being poor," she screamed. "Better than pretending your little professor pension and your dead wife's insurance money could solve our problems." Tyler stepped closer to me. "Mom, why are you saying mean things about Grandma Eleanor?" Patricia ignored him. She was too far gone. "You have no idea what it's like," she said, shaking. "Watching other families have nice things while we live paycheck to paycheck." "We weren't living paycheck to paycheck," Danny said softly. "You were spending everything, plus Dad's money, on things we didn't even need." I pulled out the final piece of evidence. Credit card statements. $15,000 on clothes and jewelry, $8,000 on spas, $6,000 on restaurants, all charged to my name. Danny's face went pale. "Patricia, what is this?" She didn't answer. She just grabbed her purse and keys, heading for the door. "I'm not staying here to be attacked by a delusional old man and his enabler son." She spat. "You're not going anywhere," I said quietly. "Detective Sarah Brown is waiting for you outside." Patricia froze mid-step. "What?" "I called the police 3 days ago," I said. "They're parked right out front." Through the window, we could see the unmarked car, 2 officers, waiting. Sometimes the best revenge is letting justice knock at your door. Detective Brown's knock came exactly 30 seconds after I texted her. When Patricia saw her badge, her last act of defiance crumbled. "Patricia Wilson Thompson," Detective Brown said formally. "You're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit involuntary commitment." "This is insane," Patricia screamed. "Danny, tell them your father is delusional." "You have the right to remain silent," the detective continued, slipping handcuffs over Patricia's trembling wrists. "I'm this man's caregiver," Patricia cried. "He's sick. He doesn't know what he's saying." "Ma'am," Detective Brown said coldly, "we've reviewed 18 months of video evidence, footage of you crushing pills into his coffee, audio recordings of you admitting to drugging him, medical tests confirming zolpidem poisoning. We know everything." Patricia's voice rose, desperate. "Those could be fabricated." Detective Brown played a clip from my recorder. Patricia's voice again. "Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family." Patricia's knees buckled. "That's taken out of context." "What context?" Officer Martinez asked. "Makes drugging your father-in-law acceptable?" Danny stood frozen, his face pale as paper. "Detective, I had no idea." "We know," she said. "You were deceived too." Tyler stood beside me, watching as his mother, his hero, was led out in handcuffs. "Grandpa," he whispered, "were you really sick?" I bent down. "No, buddy, I was never sick. Your mom put something in my coffee that made me sleepy and confused." "Why would she do that?" I couldn't answer that. I just hugged him tighter. As Detective Brown read Patricia her rights, Officer Martinez photographed the kitchen, the pill crusher, the fake reports, the forged commitment papers. Evidence of betrayal in every corner. "The DA will file formal charges tomorrow," Detective Brown said. "She's facing 3 to 7 years. Danny spoke softly. "What about the house sale?" "Funny thing about that," I said with a faint smile. "She did sell the house, signed the papers on Tuesday." Danny frowned. "Then how?" "Because Peterson Development," I said, "is owned by my attorney, Margaret Hayes." Detective Brown raised an eyebrow. "You set up a sting?" "I knew Patricia would rush to close before committing me, so Margaret created a shell company, made a legitimate offer, and Patricia signed away the deed to me." Patricia stared at me, horrified. "You can't do that. The power of attorney is mine." "Power of attorney obtained through fraud is invalid," Detective Brown said flatly. Patricia screamed, "But we already spent the down payment." "The Florida condo will be repossessed," I said calmly, "along with everything you bought with my money." As the police car door slammed, I looked at her one last time. "You'll never be able to take care of yourself," she shouted. "The only thing I ever needed," I said, "was for you to stop poisoning me." But the story wasn't over. That night, Patricia sat in Hennepin County Jail, probably rehearsing excuses in her head. But while she waited for a lawyer, I was making the calls that would finish what she started. The next morning, I drove to Margaret's office. "The Peterson sale is void," she said. "The property's back in your name." "Good," I told her. "Now let's make it mean something." I handed her a folder. "Contact information for the Minnesota Alzheimer's Association. I want to donate the house," I said, "in Eleanor's memory." Danny's eyes widened. "Dad, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," I said. "Your mother spent her last months worrying about me. This way, she can still help others." By noon, the deed transfer was complete. $950,000 redirected toward Alzheimer's research. December 27th. Patricia's arraignment. She stood before Judge Williams in an orange jumpsuit. the confidence gone from her voice. Your Honor, her public defender began, my client was acting out of compassion. Counselor, the judge interrupted, I've reviewed the evidence, video of systematic drugging, audio of admissions, medical proof of cognitive clarity. Spare me the compassion speech. How does your client plead? Not guilty, Patricia whispered. Bail was set at $50,000, money she no longer had. Afterward, Detective Brown found me in the hallway. Mr. Thompson, the condo company will refund the down payment once charges are settled. Keep it, I said. Donate it to elder abuse prevention. That afternoon, Danny helped me pack. He must have apologized 100 times. Son, I told him, Patricia fooled everyone, even me. Don't blame yourself. He nodded. How did you figure it out? I smiled faintly, holding Eleanor's photograph. Your mother was a teacher. She always said, if you want to find a liar, listen for the contradictions. Patricia's stories never lined up. As we loaded the last box into his truck, a car pulled up. Patricia's sister. Where's Patricia? She demanded. She's going to be delayed, I said, about 3 to 7 years, depending on good behavior. Sometimes the truth is the cruelest gift of all. March 15th, 2025. Patricia pleaded guilty to avoid trial. 4 years in state prison, $50,000 in restitution. A restraining order keeping her away from me and Tyler forever. Judge Williams called it what it was, a particularly cruel form of elder abuse. And now I live peacefully at Sunset Manor, 70 years old, clear-headed, alive. Tyler visits every Sunday. We read books the same way Eleanor and I used to read to Danny. The Alzheimer's Association named a grant after her, the Eleanor Thompson Memory Fund. Every day, I look out the window at the sunset and think about everything Patricia tried to take from me. But I didn't lose my mind, I didn't lose my home, and I sure as hell didn't lose my dignity. Patricia gets out in 2029. By then, Tyler will be 16, old enough to understand exactly who his mother really was. And when that day comes, he'll know one thing for certain. Some memories are worth fighting for, and some lies never really die.